Hello, year 5, how are you? Um, so today we're going to continue talking about the solar system and the planets of the solar system. In our live session, we talked about the names of the planets of the solar system, and we learned a way to remember the names of them and never forget the arrangement of the planets. So today we're going to learn more about the solar system planets. So the planets of the solar system are classified into two groups. The first group are the closest to the sun, and those planets are mainly made of rock. So they are rocky. They are called the rocky planets, and they are the first four or the closest four planets to the sun, which are Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. The second group of planets are mainly made up of gas, and they are much bigger than the ones which are closest to the sun. They are very big. That's why they are called the gas giants, because they are made of gas and because they are much bigger and more huge than the other rocky planets, the closest to the sun. And those gas giants are Jupiter, which is the biggest amongst all of the planets, Saturn, and Saturn is known with its rings, Uranus, and Neptune. By the way, the smallest among all of those is Mercury. Before it was Pluto, before it got out of the planets of the solar system, it was Pluto. And then when Pluto was considered a dwarf planet, Mercury became the smallest planet among all of the solar system planets. So now let's start talking about each of those planets. The first one and the closest to the sun is, of course, Mercury. And Mercury is like all the rocky planets. It is made up of rocks, and of course, as I told you, it is the closest to the the closest planet to the sun. The next one, this beautiful reddish pink planet, which is Venus. And Venus is made up, of course, also of rocks, and it's the most beautiful planet among all of the other planets. And it is the second furthest sun from the planet from the. Of course, our mother, our home planet is Earth, and Earth and Venus are almost the same size. The Earth has the right distance away from the sun, which makes it perfect for us to live on. It's not too close to the sun, and which will make it very hot for us to be able to live there, and it's not too cold for us to freeze. So the Earth has the perfect position away from the sun to make it perfect for living. Then, of course, we know the red planet, Mars, and as I told you, it's called, or it's known as the red planet, and it's much smaller than the Earth. It's about half the size of Earth. Now I'm going to show you a video about all the rocky planets, and I hope you enjoy it, and then we're going to continue talking about the gas giants.
Hi guys, welcome back to the fort. Today, Squeaks and I thought we'd do a little sightseeing. using our telescope. We're going to tour our solar system. The solar system is made up of the sun, the Earth, and 7 other planets, plus lots of dust, big rocks, gas, and other stuff. All of that stuff together is in orbit around the sun, traveling around it over and over, and the solar system is huge. It's so huge that only one spacecraft so far has ever flown from the Earth all the way to the edge of the solar system. It's called Voyager 1. It's a probe about the size of a small car, but doesn't have any people in it. It has flown from Earth through the solar system, taking pictures of lots of the planets as it went, and it took over 35 years to reach the edge. It's so big that today we're just going to cover half of it. And keep in mind, it took Voyager 1 all that time to fly from Earth, and Earth isn't even at the middle of our solar system. The sun is, so let's start there, right at the center of the action. The sun is a star, and like most stars, it's a huge ball of super hot gas that gives off light and heat. Without the sun, Earth would be a dark, frozen world with no life. But Earth isn't the closest planet to the sun. That would be Mercury. Not only is Mercury the closest planet to the sun, it's also the smallest. It's less than half the size of the Earth. Mercury doesn't have a lot of gases around it like Earth does. Without these gases to hold and heat, Mercury has the biggest changes in temperature of any of the planets. It can go from a super chilly 170 degrees below zero at night to a very warm 425 degrees Celsius during the day. People couldn't survive on Mercury, and I don't think robotic rats could either. And things get even more extreme on Venus, the next closest planet to the sun. Venus is the brightest planet in our solar system. If you know where to look, you can sometimes spot it from Earth, especially just after the sun sets at night, or just before when it rises in the morning. We've sent probes to Venus to take pictures too. They show us that the planet is rocky and covered with thick clouds, but doesn't have any life on it because Venus is extremely hot. In fact, even though it's not the closest to the sun, Venus is the hottest planet in our solar system, with temperatures reaching as high as 460 degrees Celsius. Whew! Let's cool off and head to the next planet. Hey, this place looks familiar. Welcome back to Earth. Earth is about 93 million miles from the sun, and it takes 365 days, our year, for the Earth to orbit the sun. And Earth is unlike any other planet in our solar system for at least 2 reasons. Number 1, it's the only planet that we know for sure has liquid water on its surface. And number 2, it's the only planet that we know has life on it. No other planets in the solar system have plants or animals or any living things on them. Earth, you rock. Now let's move on to our last stop for today. It's time for a mission to Mars. Mars's nickname is the Red Planet. That's because Mars has a lot of minerals on its surface that give it a unique reddish color. Mars is sort of similar to the planet that we live on. The length of a day on Mars is almost the same as a day on Earth. It's just about 40 minutes longer. And Mars even has some ice on it, frozen at its North Pole. But as far as we know, there's no liquid water anywhere on Mars because it's so cold. Mars also has mountains and canyons like Earth. In fact, it's home to the solar system's biggest volcano. Scientists have named it Olympus Mons, and it's nearly 3 times larger than Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on Earth. Clearly, the solar system is an amazing place, full of different worlds with all kinds of extreme environments. And we've only covered 4 planets so far. And those 4 planets all have one thing in common. They're all solid worlds with hard, rocky surfaces that, if you ever went there, you could stand on. Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars are what we call rocky planets. But next time, we're going to tour planets with no surface at all, the gas giants. Until next time, thanks for exploring with us. And remember, if you have a question for SciShow Kids, let us know by leaving a comment or emailing us at kids@thescishow.com. Thanks, guys.
So now we're going to talk about the other group, the second group of planets, the gas giants. And as I told you, they are called the gas giants because they are made mainly of gas, frozen gases, and they are much bigger than the first group, and that's why they are called the giants. The first one is Jupiter, and Jupiter is the largest planet, of course, in the solar system, and it, as I told you, it is made up of frozen gas. Then the other beautiful planet is Saturn, and Saturn has 9 rings revolving around it, or orbiting it, or making circles around it. Those 9 rings are mainly made of ice and dust, and the planet itself is made up of frozen gases, and it is the second largest planet after Jupiter in the solar system. Next is the blue planet, which is Uranus, and it is made up of frozen gases, and it is the coldest planet. And there is the other blue planet, which is Neptune, and Neptune also is made up of frozen gases. So we're going to watch another video talking about the gas giants, and then we're going to make a little classwork, and then I'm going to show you your homework.
Welcome back! If you were with us last time, then you got to join Squeaks and me on the first half of our tour of our amazing solar system. The solar system is the sun and all of the things that orbit around it. The biggest of these are our 8 planets. Last time, we started with the star at the middle of our solar system, the sun, and we stopped by for visits to Mercury, the smallest planet, followed by Venus, which is the hottest planet, then our home, Earth, the only planet that we know that has living things on it, and finally Mars. Those 4 planets are the only rocky planets in our solar system. That means that they have hard, rocky surfaces, and if you could fly there, you could actually stand on them. But way out beyond Mars, you'll find a totally different kind of planet, ones that are made almost completely out of gas. Scientists call these the gas giants. And the first one we'll bump into is also by far the biggest planet in our solar system, Jupiter. This planet is made up entirely of thick layers of gas, and it's so big that Earth could fit into it more than 1,300 times over. It even has more than 60 moons of its own. Jupiter is also a very stormy planet with wild winds whipping all over all the time. One storm, called the Great Red Spot, has been raging on Jupiter for hundreds of years. The storms sometimes get smaller or bigger, but it has been there for as long as people have been studying Jupiter with telescopes. See you later, storm! Our next planet, Saturn, is also really, really big and made of gas. But you can tell it apart from Jupiter and other gas giants because of its big, beautiful rings. Actually, all 4 of the gas giants have rings around them, but most of them are so small and faint that it's hard to see them. But Saturn has the biggest and the brightest rings, and they might look fancy, but they're really just made of dust, rocks, and ice. And even though Saturn is really big, it's also very light. Some scientists think that because the gases that make it up are so lightweight, the whole planet would actually be able to float in water. If only we could find a bathtub big enough. Saturn is the furthest planet from the Earth that you can actually see with your own eyes. You'll need a telescope to spot our next gas giant, Uranus. Unlike all the other planets in our solar system, Uranus spins on its side. Nobody's exactly sure why, but it could be that a large object smashed into the planet a long time ago and knocked it sideways. Besides moving differently, Uranus is also a lot colder than the other planets and is sometimes called an ice giant. It has reached the coldest temperature ever measured in our solar system, dipping almost as low as 223 degrees below zero. Oh, brr. But it's not getting much warmer where we're headed. Come on, Squeaks, let's find our last gas giant, Neptune. Neptune is the furthest planet from the sun. It could take up to 12 years to fly to Neptune from Earth. And Neptune takes a really long time to orbit the sun, over 160 Earth years to go around a single time. But it has at least one thing in common with its big brother Jupiter. It also has giant storms swirling on it. Scientists called one of these storms the Great Dark Spot because it looked like a big blotch of dark blue. And this storm was fierce. Scientists think that the winds inside the storm were the strongest, fastest winds anywhere in our solar system. But this storm didn't last as long as the one on Jupiter. The last time astronomers pointed their telescopes at the Great Dark Spot to take a picture of it, it had disappeared. But a new storm has formed on another part of the planet. Whew! That was an awesome trip. Now we've seen all of the planets in our solar system. But what else is out there? Plenty. Those rocky planets and gas giants are just a few of the things in our massive solar system. It also has asteroids and comets and other small worlds made of dust and ice, and almost certainly tons of other things scientists haven't even discovered yet. So grab a telescope and start looking. Maybe you'll discover a new world out there. Thanks for exploring with us. And remember, if you have a question for SciShow Kids, let us know by leaving a comment or emailing us. Thanks, guys.
So this is the classwork for today. Read each clue, write the name to label each planet. So what we're going to do now is we're going first to we're going to label the planets because we know the arrangement of them, and then we're going to read a little information about it from the box that they are writing here down there. So the first one and the closest to the sun, as I told you, and before Pluto, they keep putting Pluto with them. They just apparently they're forgetting that Pluto is not one of the main planets now, and it's a dwarf planet, but it's okay. So the first one and the closest to the sun is of course Mercury, and Mercury is a very hot planet because it is the closest to the sun. That makes sense, of course. The next one is the most beautiful one, if you remember. So I will let you guess, and it's Venus, of course. And Venus passes nearer to Earth than any other planet. In fact, last year Venus was very obvious in the sky, and there is a specific time each year that Venus become very obvious in our sky, and you can see it. You can check this online and find out when will Venus appear, or how can you see it, and how can you notice it among the other stars in the sky. The third one, of course, is our home, which is Earth, and Earth is the third planet from the sun. It's the only planet with oceans of water. The next one is the one after Earth, which is Mars, of course, and we know that Mars is the fourth planet from the sun. Its rust-like color comes from the large amount of iron in its soil. So Mars has a lot of iron, and when iron gets rusty, it turns into this brownish red color, and this is the color of Mars. The next one is the largest one, which is Jupiter, and Jupiter, as I just said, is the largest planet, and it's made mostly of gas. It has a spot called the Great Red Spot. Okay, the next one is the one with the rings, and it's Saturn, and Saturn is made of gas with bright rings, as we know, made of ice and dust that revolves around it. Here they are drawing Neptune and Uranus with rings too, and they do have rings, but they are not as distinct as those of Saturn, and that's why we really don't bother drawing those rings. So next after Saturn is Uranus, yes, and Uranus is the seventh planet from the sun. It's the only one tipped on the side, so it has a little tip on the side, or it's tilted a little bit to the side. Next is Neptune, and Neptune is the second to the last planet from the sun. So I think this worksheet was done before taking out Pluto from the solar system and consider it a dwarf planet. So we're just going to go with it, and the last one is Pluto, which is, they wrote here, it's the smallest planet, but now we know that it's not considered a planet, it's considered a dwarf planet. And I would love you, for all of you to write this note next to the name Pluto in your book. So now we're going to find out what is your homework today. So your homework today is pretty much like what we just did. They gave you several information about all the planets, and they want you to write each name next to the planet. So this is the sun, the center, and you just have to go with the orbits. The one closest to the sun, we know what its name, and you can learn about it from the boxes, and then you will check the second orbit and the third and the fourth and so on. And they even, this is so cute, they even drew the asteroid belt, as you can see. This is very nice. So anyway, this is your homework for today, page 60. I'm going to write it for you in the Google Classroom. I will be correcting this homework and the previous homework on Sunday's next Sunday's session, and yes, the correction will be in the video of next Sunday. I will be seeing you next week, inshallah. I am looking forward to see you again next Monday in our live session. I really loved hearing all of your voices, guys. Until then, I hope you're all doing great. Stay safe and stay at home. I love you all. Bye bye.